Hello everyone, and welcome back down here to the Gamer's Den with me, your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire. We are continuing on with the Witch's Guide here. We have plenty more spells to go, and today we are digging into the Witch's 3rd level spells. Now, just a note here before we really start digging into things. I'm cutting the 3rd level spells just a little bit short here. The main reason being there's a ton of really good stuff here for witch characters to make use of. There are so many good spells. There's some that are mediocre and some that are just outright mechanically bad for this particular kind of build. Anything that most anything that requires you to get into touch range and the melee combat range, anything that heals, and there's some stuff that just doesn't provide a whole lot of great benefit for you, your team, or work all that well in conjunction with the many hexes that you'll have at your disposal. But there's plenty of other stuff that does, and today it's basically going to be focused entirely on good spells that will be just absolutely incredible for you to have in your particular repertoire. Now, this assumes that you're able to access these, but I think a reasonable DM will be willing to at least let you have some of these on the list here, with a mix of the okay and the kind of bad ones. There are some in the mediocre to bad spells that are flavorful, but even with this particular mix right here, we get some that are just thematically appropriate for a witch character who has made deals with eldritch powers beyond mortal realms of scope or understanding. But let's go ahead and dig into this for now. Starting us off, we have Summon Monster 3. This is where the summoning monster spells really start to take off. You summon one creature from the 3rd level list, 1d3 creatures from the 2nd level list, or 1d4 plus 1 from the 1st level list. Now, if you need to get a nice swarm of little creatures going running around the battlefield, helping provide flanking bonuses for some of your allies, this will help out. And you get some interesting choices. You get options from the 3rd level list like a dire bat, lantern archons, blink dogs, or crocodiles. This is really, really good to have, and you start getting a lot of critters here that provide a great deal of benefit for you and your team, and have some viability in combat. I mean, who wants to screw around with a croc? Anyways, after that, we have Ray of Exhaustion. Now, this one is incredible. It forces a fortitude save, and even if they make their save, they still get a partial effect from the spell. It has a 25-foot range, plus 5 feet for every caster level, so by 3rd level, you're getting some decent range out of this. You're not having to be too close in melee. You might be in charging range, but if you're positioning yourself correctly, using your summon monster spell, your hexes, and your allies are keeping in the way, you're probably going to be fairly safe. What this does is a target that fails its save will become exhausted and incur all kinds of great penalties. On a successful save, they are going to become fatigued. Now, if you hit them twice with this and they save twice, the fatigued levels stack and you will make them exhausted on that second casting even if they make their save. Now, you can't make them even more than exhausted, but this is still going to be really handy to have. And then we go down to Stinking Cloud. Again, triggers another fortitude save, and it has 100 feet range with a 20-foot radius. It creates a nauseating cloud like the fog cloud spell, but it forces the targets inside of it to make fortitude saves or become nauseated. If they make their save, but they stay in that cloud radius, they are going to continually have to make their saves until they become nauseated, and it lasts for a number of rounds after they exit the cloud. So really, really good, really easy area of effect debuff to start throwing down. Then after that, we have Sleet Storm. There are no saves for this spell. It's just a big area of effect, has a huge range at 400 feet, and then it has a 40-foot radius cylinder that goes up 20 feet high. It blocks all sight, even dark vision. True Seeing, I believe, will still get through it, but that's a pretty decent amount of magic to shell out there. And if you're forcing your enemies to expend spells like that just so they can see you, you're still doing your job. Characters going through this will move at half their speed on the ice as it freezes everything on the ground, and it creates an icy layer. And when they go through, they have to make a D10 acrobatics save. It's not super high. Most a lot of characters may end up with 40% chance, 50-50 shot at passing it, but failing by 5 or more knocks them prone. So you're potentially knocking people prone, screwing with their ability to see, and this thing is just really great to have. Absolutely one that is a must-have for any witch's spell list. Then going from there, we have Dispel Magic. Now, I don't know why some guides online rate this as a lower quality spell. This is actually really good to have. If it's just you may not have it every day, but those times when you need it, you will really need it. Has a 100-foot range with no saves or spell resistances. You dispel one magical effect, suppress a magic item's abilities, or can use it as a counter spell. You make a caster level check, which is 1d20 with adding in your spellcasting character level. So if you're a 6th level witch, you add +6 to your roll. You succeed, you will with your total check there, you will dispel one effect whose spellcaster check you overcome. So if a target has 3 effects on them, one's that requires a check of 25, 20, and then 16, you get, say, a 24. You'll miss the 25, but you will dispel the 20 difficulty spell. Whatever the spell effect was, you will end it, suppress it, keep it down and out of the way. You may not have removed all the buffs from your target, but you have removed something and made them more vulnerable to you. Absolutely what you want to have. Now, we have Eldritch Fever. Whatever you have to do to get this, lie, cheat, steal from your DM, just con him every single step of the way that you possibly can in order to get this. Forces a Fortitude save. 25-foot range. You sicken your single spell casting target, and most spellcasters will have terrible fortitude saves. When they cast a spell, you will force them to make a concentration check at DC 15 plus twice the spell level. So anybody casting 3rd level spells has a spell casting check of 21 to overcome. If they fail, the action and the spell are lost. You want this. You want this real bad. It plays merry hell with spellcasters. I ran just a very simple, basic level 6 wizard up against a level 6 witch with this spell, and the wizard had a terrible time actually trying to get spells to go off. It didn't work all the time, and messing with a spellcaster's ability to affect the game greatly improves your odds. Absolutely get this spell. And then after that, we come to Fly. Another one that people seem to go back and forth on how useful it is. Anything that buffs your allies, allows you to overcome traps that are floor-based or require some kind of touch, or you have enemies that are up high, either up in towers or flying in the sky above. This is great to have. Gives allies a 60-foot fly speed, 40 if they have medium or heavier armor, or carrying the medium or heavy loads. Gives them good maneuverability and 1/2 your caster level as a bonus on all their flying skill checks. This is a great spell to have. Ignore any guides that say, well, maybe don't ignore the guides, but definitely take every guide with a little bit of a grain of salt. And Fly is going to be incredibly useful for so many different situations. Now, once we get past Fly, we come on down to Howling Agony. This one's it's pretty good, but it's not quite all the way good to rate a blue category in my book, but it's not fully green either. So this is still a good pick for you. Another spell with the 25-foot range, you target one living creature per level within, no two of which can be further than 30 feet from each other. You rack your targets with pain, giving them a -2 penalty to attacks, melee damage rolls, armor class, reflex saving throws, and they have to make more concentration checks for spellcasting. The target can spend a move action to scream and end the penalty, but you're causing them to burn up their actions. Then after Howling Agony, we come down to Unadulterated Loathing. Again, these spells just really fit the whole motif for the witch. I love it. But we come to another 25-foot range spell. It lasts 1 day a level with will save to resist it. You fill your target with revulsion for a specified target, making them stay 60 feet away at minimum. The target being inside of that range makes the spell target nauseated, and it forces them to make every attempt to get away. Well, every safe attempt, that is. There's my most adorable co-host weighing in with her commentary on this spell. Always cutting insight from this one. I love it. But this is a great one to have, because if you need to make sure that the whatever enemy team or little grouping is coming at you, if they're playing merry hell with you, this is a great way for disrupting their tactics and forcing them apart, and hopefully making them a bit more vulnerable to you and the rest of the players at the table. And last but not least, we have Spit Venom. Everything at this level for witches seems to be the 25-foot range with a plus 5 feet for every caster level. Forces a fortitude save to partially negate the ranged touch attack with a venom that you spit at your target. At minimum, you are blinding them for 1 round. Incredible to have, especially if you're throwing this down on a melee target that's dishing out a ton of damage to whoever your frontline fighters are. On a failure, they're also going to be afflicted with Black Adder Venom, which, again, is not bad. It's not the most virulent thing ever, but it's a great effect to have on top of the fact that they are going to be blinded. This is really good to have. Most of the spells here, there's so many that are just such solid and good choices. There are other things like remove curse, remove blindness, remove deafness. Those are going to be really handy for you to have as well, and I definitely would rate them as a green. Honestly, they'll feel like they're blue must-have spells when those moments come and your party is afflicted with different curses and is blinded or deafened. But they're not going to come up often, and the rest of these spells listed here, you're going to get much more frequent and regular use out of. Say hello, my most adorable co-host and learner initiate to storytelling lore. She says hello. But with that said, there's plenty more to take. Again, take guides with a pinch of salt. Remember that your character is your character. Whatever spells you are able to come across, or if you find something that just you really absolutely like, even if it's not the most mechanically effective, it's one you like using, it fits the flavor or the mold or the story you have for your character, go with that. With that said, I've been your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire. If you liked today's video, maybe consider giving me a like. Or if you've been enjoying the content here so far, hell, why not subscribe and join us down here at the Gamers Den on a more regular basis. And if you do subscribe, YouTube, yada yada, click the bell, pay attention, you get the idea. Once again, I've been your host. You folks have yourselves a good night. So many things happening.